Hello students, welcome back to the Mimic Social Simulation. This week we are in round 7, completing the first round of social media influencers. As per usual, I encourage you to review the scenario, the inbox, and the notifications hub, as well as your results from previous rounds before you jump into selecting influencers for this round. One thing we'll notice on this round is that we have new resources in our resources tab. So let's go ahead and click on resources. Let's look at our influencer guide. And I will go ahead and open up our negotiating tips resource as well. Okay, let's look at our influencer guide first. This influencer guide is just a one-page document, but gives a lot of information about the different types of influencers you can select. So in this simulation, you have 3 different types of influencers: mega influencers, macro influencers, and micro influencers. Each type of influencer has pros and cons associated with it. So, for example, looking at our mega influencers, these are influencers with 1 million or more followers. Typically, these are going to be your celebrities or professional athletes. One of the pros of our mega influencers is that they have a vast audience, meaning you can achieve greater reach. However, these influencers are not authentic, which will often lead to lower engagement. So while you will rank highly on reach or impressions as you're graded on, you will be rated lower or ranked lower on engagement. And in the influencer round, we will use likes for measuring the engagement. Your mega influencers are also going to be the most expensive options for you. So if you select a mega influencer, your budget will not go as far. For our macro influencers have 500,000 to 1 million followers. These influencers do have a large, diverse audience with a broad reach. So your reach will be high, not quite as high as with the mega influencers, but higher than with our micro influencers. Our macro influencers are also experienced with working with brands, so they are familiar with serving as influencers on a regular basis. However, one of the cons with our macro influencers is that campaigns can be hard to execute and they can be expensive. So in this round, you only have a $5,000 budget. So depending on which macro influencers you want to select and what you want them to do, you may not have enough budget to cover everything. Our last type of influencers are micro influencers. These individuals have between 10,000 and 50,000 followers. Our micro influencers do have a tight-knit relationship with their audience, meaning you're going to see higher levels of engagement and conversion rates. Our macro influencers, because they do have a smaller following, they will also be one of our cheapest options. Some of the negatives of using our micro influencers is that they have lower reach. So you will receive lower impressions, but you will likely see higher engagement. Because our micro influencers have a smaller following, it might take more research and more time to make the negotiations work with our micro influencers. Let's go over and look at our negotiating tips now. In our negotiating tips, we're given some information about the zone of possible agreement, or our ZOPA. So when we're negotiating with our influencers, we have a floor and a ceiling. So our floor is how much the influencer charges per post. So that is the absolute minimum that the influencer would accept in a negotiation deal. The ceiling is how much you're willing and able to pay. So in round 7, you have a budget of $5,000. So your ceiling would be $5,000. I encourage you to read through this document, looking at how you should approach an influencer with an offer, and then some of the do's and don'ts when an influencer rejects your offer. Let's go back over to our simulation. We'll click on our influencers. If you've not already done so, I encourage you to watch the influencer instructional video provided in the simulation. After you've done that, we are ready to start selecting and scheduling our influencers. Okay, to get started, let's click on Schedule Influencer. When we are scheduling influencers, we have 3 different elements to select from. We have to select an influencer category, we have to select a strategy, and then we enter into the negotiations before we finally schedule our influencer. So as we talked about in the influencer guide, we have 3 different types of influencers, and we're also given an average cost associated with each type of influencer. So to start out with, I am going to select a mega influencer. Remember, these individuals have the largest following. They're going to have a higher reach, but a lower engagement. Once I click on this type of influencer, I'm given multiple different influencers to look through and select from. Let's look at our first influencer here, Chris Ronald. He is a 21-year-old male and a world-famous soccer star. We are provided the number of followers that Chris has on each platform. So Chris is active on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I can click on the See More to look at the demographic makeup, interests, and a brief bio about Chris. I can do this for each of my influencers. Let's look over at our macro influencers. In our macro influencers, again, we're given several different options. We can see Ryan Ball is a 28-year-old male. He's an outdoor enthusiast and videographer. Again, you can see which platforms he's active on and his number of followers. Again, we can see the demographic information, the interests, and a brief bio. Same thing for our micro influencers. So to start us off, let's select a mega influencer. The mega influencer I want to select is Chris Ronald. And the reason I'm selecting Chris Ronald is because his demographic profile is made up 70% of male. The interests of his audience are backpacking, hiking, day pack, outings, travel, camping, canoeing, boating. This goes along with our scenario overview. If we come back to our market tab, this matches closely with our Daypacker Tom audience. And since our Daypacker Tom audience is 30% of our market, selecting Chris Ronald is a good influencer to start with. So I will click select. Then I move into my second element here where I need to select the strategy. So this is what you are asking the influencer to do. So we have the option of affiliate marketing. This is where our brand partners with influencers to promote their products. We have giveaways. This can be used to increase engagement. We have social media takeovers where the individual takes over Buoy's social media. We have branded content where influencers display their partnership with Buoy. We have gifts. Gifts are where you provide a product to the individual and hope that they create a post on their social media accounts on Buoy's behalf. And then lastly, we have brand ambassadors, where they are promoting the products that they are currently using. For this influencer, remember we selected Chris Renauld. I'm going to select branded content. Now I move into my negotiation section. So this is where I negotiate with Chris Renauld on the amount per post that I'm willing to pay and the number of posts that I'm asking for. If we go back and look at Chris Renauld is active on 3 different platforms. When we are in our negotiations, we need to keep this in mind because the amount that we're offering per post will be divided across the 3 different platforms for Chris. So let's go over to our negotiation. The average cost is $2,000 to $5,000 per post. So I'm going to start with the $2,000. I'm going to offer Chris $2,000 and I'm going to ask him to create 1 post. So my total compensation is $2,000 and I can send the offer. What I received back is that Chris Renauld said I would be willing to produce that much content, but you'll need to offer me more money. Okay, I can offer Chris more money. So I have decided I'm going to offer $2,250 for 1 post, and I will send this offer. Okay. Chris does not like my offer of $2,250. He still wants more money for 1 single post. I get 3 tries with each influencer before they decide not to work with you. So since I've already sent 2 offers, this has to be my last, best, and final offer for Chris. Because Chris does have such a large following, and this is such a large section of my market, I am going to offer $3,000 for 1 post. Well, unfortunately that did not work out. Chris said, I don't think this is going to work out. So now the business is no longer desires to work with me, so I must select another business, meaning I must select another influencer. So I have to start this process over. I have to go back to select an influencer, and I am going to select Kathy Berry. So I will select Kathy's profile. Since the branded content did not work out as well for me last time, this time I'm going to select affiliate marketing. So again, I can see Kathy Berry here as a singer, and again, the average cost is $2,000 to $5,000. So I'm going to start with a higher offer this time. I'll start with $3,000 for 1 post and sending my offer. Excellent. Kathy replies, you have yourself a deal. Let's get to work. So at this point, I can either move forward with the offer or click never mind to start over. So I'm going to click move forward with the offer. Here it gives me a review, Kathy Berry, affiliate marketing, 1 post for $3,000. Okay, so I can see that Kathy Berry is scheduled. My total cost is $3,000 and I have a balance left of $2,000. So I'm going to come back and schedule a second influencer. This time I'm going to select a micro influencer. Because the first time I selected a mega influencer, this will have higher reach but lower engagement. So I'm going to select a micro influencer with lower reach but higher engagement. So in my micro influencers, again, I've got my same information, the number of followers and profiles available. I am going to scroll down and select the foodies. So I'm going to select my foodies. This time I'm going to select a giveaway. Because giveaways effortlessly increase engagement, since I'm trying to increase my engagement with these influencers, they will often ask participants to like, follow, comment, and tag others, so increasing engagement from my audience. My foodies, their average cost is $400 to $1,000 per post. I've got a budget left of $2,000. So for my foodies, I'm going to ask them to make 2 posts, and I'm going to give them $800 per post. So a total of $1,600. I'll send my offer. Excellent. The foodies have decided that we have a deal and they want to work together. So I'm going to go ahead and select move forward with offer and then again confirm my offer. Now I have a balance of $400 left. So I'll come back to my influencers one more time. Because my micro influencers start at $400 and $400 is all I have left, selecting a micro influencer is going to be the best option. I'm going to try something in this section. I'm going to actually select my foodies again. And my strategy is going to be a gift. So here a gift is sent to our influencers by Buoy with the hope that the influencer will be seen using and talking positively about my product. So I'm going to select my gift. I've got $400 left and I only have one gift to give. So I can click send gift. With our gifts, because we are not actually negotiating on the number of posts the influencer will make, we're hoping they will make a post for us. We don't have to go back and forth in the negotiations. So the gift is essentially automatically accepted. When I confirm the offer, it will also tell us that sending a gift is immediately deducted from the value of my budget and it cannot be undone. So I'm going to go ahead and say, let's do it. Now we can see I've selected 3 influencers, 2 are the same. My balance is 0. I've spent my $5,000 budget. So we are ready to click our run simulation. Okay, let's look to see how we did. So my first influencer, Kathy Berry, created a total of 1,432,851 impressions, created total engagements 14,133, revenue of $1,624 with 22 conversions. When I scroll down, I can see more information. So I have my influencer, my strategy, impressions, likes, clicks, engagements, shares, so on and so forth. Let's click over to our foodies. So our foodies, we have a large difference in our metrics. So we've got 9,278 impressions, 755 engagements, and only 11 conversions. This is a big difference in our impressions, our engagements here, and even our conversions. So let's go back and look at our foodies. Let's see which of our posts did well. So my giveaways, I had my foodies create 2 posts, and the strategy was giveaways. Then I also offered them a gift, and unfortunately, they did not generate any impressions, likes, engagements, which means most likely I gave them this gift and they took it without creating any posts. Okay, so this covers our first round of the social media influencers. If I clicked up here on ranking, I can see how I performed in the class that I'm playing in. So let me click on rankings. Once I click on rankings, I can see that I am ranked number 55 out of 71 in terms of revenue, and I'm ranked in the 20s in terms of impressions. So this tells me I have a high number of impressions, but lower revenue. So I may want to keep this in mind going forward to see if I can increase the amount of revenue generated while also still keeping my impressions high. I wish you guys luck this week. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comment section, and I will see you next week for round 8.